What impressed you the most about the performance? Because for me, when I was watching it, I was sitting there thinking, come on, because we've seen this type of Arsenal performance before, where they dominate possession, don't create too many chances, don't take the chances. What impressed you about this particular performance? Because they kept going to the very end, and eventually got over the line.
Yeah, I don't think there was a panic. You know, I think there was a calm insurance. I think every Arsenal fan who's watching it probably had that nervous feeling in your stomach. You know, you're watching the clock, like countdown, watching the clock tick down.
Yeah.
But then I just thought we'd talk about, obviously, Nwaneri, who was outstanding, and Lewis Skelly again, who taking the responsibility those young players are taking in this really sharp end of the season, I think is very impressive. And you have to say, that had been Arteta's mind. Like, these days, they call them impactors now. They're not subs anymore, aren't they? They're impactors. And you can say finishers, because Mourinho was a finisher. Arteta would have had that in his mind all season. I think Clarkey mentioned last week that if it was him, he would put Mourinho as like a centre forward. So Clarkey could be on the coaching staff next week sometime, couldn't he? So, but and again, when you're in that situation, Leicester played all right, to be fair. They were well organised. Normally, defensively, they're a little bit sloppy, but they weren't. But the belief that gives you, that you can grind out victories. Do you know what I mean? Say, the performance, you want to be free-flowing and, you know, of course, winning 4s and 5s. But when you're coming, you know, it's like Bentley, when you've been away and you've had an attritional away game and you're sat on that team coach or plane, whatever they come back these days, and you're looking around, you get this little bit of, like, belief in you. You know, you think, we're all right. Whatever situation, we can get ourselves out of it.
Yeah, Nwaneri as well. The thing that sort of amazed me was his confidence to give me the ball, but two, also how Arsenal's attack, a bit like when Saka plays, it kind of felt like we've got to give him the ball. If someone's going to make something happen, it's going to be Nwaneri. And, you know, the cross he supplies for Moreno for the first goal is brilliant. And just the way at 17, I mean, you guys will know much better. I mean, how different is it when you're a 17-year-old playing in the team to when you're a 27? Because Arteta's talking about no fear, he's got no scars. And do you kind of understand that, how he just plays with complete freedom? There's no sort of pressure on him.
Do you know what? I remember when I first got in the team at Ipswich, and you were a bit nervous, and I was 17 when I first got in the team as well. But there was still that kind of caution that I didn't want to let anyone down, didn't want to give the ball away. I think what's really special about certain teenagers we've seen, like Nwaneri certainly fits into that mould. Wayne Rooney's another prime example. There's no fear there. If he gives the ball away, I want the ball again. Like, a lot of 17-year-olds that get in the team might make 1 or 2 mistakes and hide for the rest of the game. Not hide for the rest of the game, but a little bit unsure about, do I take the ball again now? Overthink it. Nwaneri's like, I don't care what happens next. Just keep feeding me the ball. And the fact that the Arsenal players keep giving him the ball, regardless of if he's marked tight, if he's in space, if it's a bit of a risky ball, they'll still give it to him, Perry.
You know what, as well, he's always played above his level. He's always played, when you look at him, he was 14 playing in the under-18s. Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
So and then he makes his debut at 15 and a half. And I didn't know what colour pants I was going to put on at 15 and a half, let alone. But what they've done is, as well, obviously there's an unbelievable natural talent in there, along with Lewis Skelly. Yeah. But you've got to give a lot of credit to the academy and the coach in the way that they've brought him through, right? Because he played when he was 15 and a half, then he was brought out for a little while, and then obviously played the under-18s, under-21s. And as brilliantly gifted as what he is technically, and he plays free, he reminds me of Bukayo Saka and his upper body strength, where they're slight, they're probably about 5'9", 5'10", and they're slight of build and their mobility is great, but they know how to use their body. And Lewis Skelly is exactly the same.
Do you know what's funny? I mean, that's a great point, because you've compared Nwaneri and Lewis Skelly, the way they use their bodies, to Saka then, and you're 100% right. Joe Cole compared him to Messi, which is, I mean, that's...
All right, Joe, calm down.
That is some praise.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the obvious question is going to come about two of them, and we'll get to the negatives in terms of the performance, but the positives. You talk about Nwaneri and Lewis Skelly, and I think for both of those, England is going to become a real possibility. Now, I genuinely believe that maybe Lewis Skelly's England shout will come before Nwaneri's, and that's simply for the fact of what England have got in that particular area of the pitch at left back. I'm not quite sure who holds onto the shirt at the minute. But can you see in the very near future, and I'll come to you first, Simon, those guys in the England squad, maybe in the next one, Thomas Tuchel's next squad?
I mean, Lewis Skelly, I think, is the perfect one, because that position is, if you were going to say anywhere, where can you get in the squad? I think it's left back. Yeah. I think Lewis Hall said it after he made his debut, actually, in November, that he kind of realised that is a position where you can get in, because obviously Luke Shaw's his injury problems. I think beyond Lewis Hall, when you could play Levi Colwell there, you know, Chilwell's had to move to Palace. I think that is a spot that's open. Nwaneri, I just think it's difficult. There's so many attacking players there, like the abundance of, you know, quality players to try and get. That's probably the hardest position to get in. But I think for him, if you're playing in a team fighting for the title, And Tuchel, you know, look at his project. He's 18 months there.
Yeah.
He's not going to care about it. And if he thinks this guy is good enough, I think Tuchel will just put him in. I think he's that sort of manager who'll go for it.
The thing is, as well, with Nwaneri, we all know about his creativity. He actually shoots from 20, 25 yards.
Yeah.
And as an Arsenal fan, I don't think we take enough shots from, because we know that teams like defend deep now and we try and go from, sometimes we can be a bit clunky, you know, where it's a bit formulaic, where you go down the left, you go down the right. And I want Odegaard and Declan Rice to take this out of Nwaneri's playbook, where when teams are backing off, that you just like release a shot from 20, because what happens is, if you do start doing that, teams then have to come and close you down, and then there's little spaces. But if you don't start shooting, then they can sit a little bit deeper. But Nwaneri will be, if you're Mikel Arteta, you wouldn't want him to be in this squad anyway. Do you know what I mean? Because you want him just to have a nice little like rest basically, and just like calm himself down. And as Arteta said, sometimes you have to get away just for 3 or 4 days. You know, it's like Bentley, just to calm your brain down a little bit, you know, because the level, if you're talking about elite levels, so you're talking about, you say, top 2 of the Premier League, you're talking about last 16 in the Champions League. So if he can stay consistent, then he will be in the England squad. But what'll happen is, you know as well, as a younger player, your graph is like that. It's very rarely, as you get to the end of your career, then it's more undulating. Do you know what I mean? So, but he's just playing free. There's no fear with him at all.
Where do you think his best position is, Nwaneri?
I think because you know when you're always the best player in the playground.
Yeah.
Right, well, not that I was, but you play as a 10.
Yeah.
Because every manager goes, you're that good.
Get you on the ball.
You go like Grealish when he was at Aston Villa.
Of course, yeah.
Like, so I think Nwaneri's played all the way through there. I think at the minute he's better in the right side. But there's another thing I'd like Arteta to do more, is I like him to switch the wide players over a bit more. You know, it's not happening for you. When Saka was playing and Martinelli was playing, sometimes, you know, full-back shining beside, you think, we'll just change over.
Yeah.
Just give yourself 10, 15 minutes. But I think he will end up becoming like the 10 or the Odegaard who ends up like pulling the strings. You know what I mean? Yeah, so he's that good.
Well, listen, Nwaneri, I thought Ethan Nwaneri, again, fantastic performance. That was the positive. The negatives, and there's always going to be in a team performance.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.